Okay, hold on. Your dad was a professor in a university, right? That means he was paying as you earn, right?
Yes.
So we're back to that same thing about 14 million Nigerians. Of that, 96% of that 14 million do pay as you earn.
Yes.
So 4% of Nigerians of that 14 million actually pay taxes. So that tells us one thing: we're finished without payee. Countries like Brussels and most countries in Europe, Belgium and most countries in Europe, depend on taxes, and they are way out there. With this VAID, Voluntary Asset Declaration executive order that the acting president has signed, who says, or what's the guarantee that we'll move forward with our taxes?
You know, a lot of things don't happen in isolation. You need to put a map in place to be able to explain what's about to happen.
Put the map. Help us.
So, if you spoke about VAIDS a decade ago, it would be very difficult. You don't have a BVN system. Okay? Today, every single financial transaction is like a forensic detail. It can be traced perfectly. And with that single thing, it means that now I can have a direct link between taxation and transactions. Now, the question that you're going to ask is, how much of the financial transactions in this country pass through a bank?
Yes, yes, the question.
Himself.
And he will answer it.
Okay. Mama Sikira, who's selling lace in Gutter, for instance, I'm sure does not put her money in the bank.
Oh, hold on. Let me coin a name here. Mohammed Chidozie Oluyemi wants to settle his godfather. Does he pass through a bank to settle his godfather?
Oh.
No. So, explain how the BVN and the map, the political situation in Nigeria, how that would work towards increasing our tax levels without payee.
Most people are still unbanked.
Yes, and I like the degree of skepticism that you have. This was the exact kind of skepticism we all had in 2005 when we were told 93 banks were going to become much fewer because they needed to raise their asset base. Is it going to happen overnight? No. Do I speak for the government? No. But based on my understanding of how other places evolve, these things have a snowball effect. Today, most of the transactions in your account, you don't really need to explain your entire source of income to anybody, because once you pay your payee, no one is checking if you had any special speaking fees or anything. I just got back from New York, and
you were paid in dollars.
You know, my friend Ikenna was doing his tax, and he just got a note from the IRS where he was told, hey, your wife in Kiru, by the way, you didn't declare the $5,000 she was paid on a pro bono thing that she did at so-and-so time. And now he needs to respond within a certain amount of time. So it's only a question of time. Once you know that someone is watching, you know, you do not want to be called out. So it's like a first warning shot. And I really, really support it, because I think this is part of what is going to enable so many things. Let me give you an example. Part of the challenges you face as a country comes from your cost of borrowing. Your cost of borrowing is sometimes, based, or is often based on your source of income. If your source of income is just oil, then the world looks at you and says, if oil prices keep on going down, this man's cost of borrowing needs to keep going up, because we do not believe his ability to repay. But as your tax base basically starts to diversify, starts to grow, it starts to look a lot more like your country, because it then means that your source of revenue is not just going to be oil-based. It's also going to be driven by consumption. Like the United States, we see the GDP is driven primarily by consumption. And you look at the tax to GDP ratio in the mid-30s, thereabout. And we need to keep heading in that direction. We need to keep heading in that direction. Is VAIDS going to be the one and only thing? No. This is like you had BVN, like you had other things. Multiple things are going to keep on coming into till at least over the next few years we get to 20%.
Mr. Asamoah, the previous administration, just before they went out, the former finance minister talked about the fact that there was a policy that he came up with to ensure that those with mansions in Abuja pay taxes on them. A friend of mine who lives in Houston pays $1,500 per annum on his house. It's a 4-bedroom duplex. He pays $1,500 as tax on his house every year. But there are houses owned by people in Nigeria, in Abuja, that are empty. Do you think with this voluntary declaration of assets, do you think they'll be willing to declare their assets and income and then pay taxes on those houses?
Vacant houses.
Vacant houses, not even the ones they occupy yet.
For that, that is the challenge we have. The data, the system. If we have the system where you can, pinpoint those who own the assets. Okay, for example, the VAIDS came up and the government had done maybe a research. For like Lagos will say if a house is empty for a particular time, it will be forfeited. The government will take over. So for such assets that there are no occupants, you understand, and for such assets that there are no occupants and maybe they are not declared, that means the government will go for them, as in get those who are actually the owner of those assets. Like in Lagos, we have what we call land use charge,
which is paid everywhere. Other states also pay, but that's not the tax. Is it the land use? The land use charge is not the tax on the house.
That's the tenement rate.
That's the tenement rate. We're talking about the tax. Let me put that to you. Do you think those people will be willing to pay with this now? Can that part of taxation be done? Can that be implemented to the point that we see the tax base and people and their assets, everybody's paying tax on something? I mean, now you go and buy a pen in some shops in Nigeria. You actually, if you look at the receipt that's given to you, you actually see the tax.
You got a receipt though.
At least you got a receipt. You actually see
that's the VAT, isn't it?
That's VAT. So, do you think we'll get to that point?
Well, I mean, usually we do what's called management by objective. So let's focus on the objective. What's the objective? The objective is the government wants to raise $1 billion. $1 billion. And one of two ways the $1 billion will be raised is either the people voluntarily pay taxes in the past 6 years, the people and the entities, or those people are going to forfeit those assets, no? Wow. Because at that point in time, and so the way I look at it is the $1 billion realizable? Absolutely. Will everybody come forward to come clean? No, people will not. The people who are on the right side of the line will come forward and say, you know what, how do we regularize this? The people on the other side of the line may think about it and say, what can I forfeit that's within Nigeria? But what's important to note is, think about the fact that you are diversifying your actual source of income. Lots of people are busy clamoring for restructuring, and they assume the restructuring will just be by having regional governments and all that. The first form of restructuring that needs to happen is the source of financing that the governments would have. Because once the source of financing, starts to move away from FAC and allocations and comes in from taxation and things like this, you will be much more interested. Many of the payee, the reason why payee has worked is really most employees don't really see the money before it goes. So they're not really activists. Yeah. When you are seeing that money before you actually pay, that thing, and you look and your local government chairman or someone has walked across, you see him buying a new house, and and meanwhile the road is not yet constructed, and then you start to have a lot more action. And it's only when there's citizen action that democracy actually works.
There's also the issue of multiple taxation. Yes. Like when tax people turn up in my office, I always say to them, because you know me, you keep harassing me. Go to those who are not paying taxes at all. So I'm paying here, I'm paying there, I'm paying all over the place. I mean, I can't even begin to list the number of taxes that I pay.
Well, tax is, there are two faces.
Make it real quick, we're closing in 30 seconds.
There are two faces to tax. We have the law and the account. Now, for every tax imposed, it's in the law. So, like, for instance, a company that doesn't do with anything entertainment, it was imposed a tax of entertainment, but on the law, they are not liable. So
Sorry, Charles, we got to go now. I mean, there's never enough time. I always say that. Thank you very much, Charles Asemokai, Chartered Accountant, and Vincent Egbe, Business Expert. Thank you very much for coming.
All right. Thank you.